There's a splinter of bone working its way up through the skin on a man's forearm right now, and he doesn't even know it yet. 3 weeks back, a snare wire opened a cut on him no longer than your thumbnail. He washed it in the creek, wrapped it in a strip of shirt, and forgot about it the way you'd forget a mosquito bite. That cut is going to kill him. Slower than a bullet, quieter than the cold, and surer than either one. And the worst part, the part I want you to sit with before you decide I'm telling tales, is that he'll feel fine for days while it happens. He'll eat. He'll walk his line. He'll bank his fire and sleep sound. And the whole time, the thing that's going to put him in the ground is already moving up his arm toward his heart. Now I know how that sounds. A scratch killing a grown man who's tougher than boot leather, who's wrestled the cold and the hunger and the wolves and won every round. Stay with me, because this is the one that got more good men than the bear and the blizzard put together. Not the dramatic wounds, not the broken leg or the gut wound or the fall off the cliff. Those, at least, a man respects. He sees those coming. No, it was the small wound, the nothing wound, the one too little to bother with, that did the quiet killing out here. And the cure, like always, cost almost nothing. The cure was free, sitting right there in the woods around him, and he walked past it every single day because nobody ever taught him to look. Let me tell you who I am so you understand I'm not guessing at any of this. I spent the better part of my life in country, where the nearest doctor was a week of hard walking through snow that came up past my waist, where a man patched his own body the same way he patched his own boots, because there was nobody else to do it. I've cut myself, burned myself, been bitten and torn and frostbit, and I'm still sitting here telling you about it. The men who taught me didn't learn this from any book or any schooling. They learned it the way everything out here gets learned, which is by burying the friends who got it wrong. And the first thing they hammered into me, the thing I want to hammer into you, is that the wound that kills you is almost never the one that hurts the most. Hold on to that, because it's the whole spine of what I'm about to tell you. If you're getting something out of this already, do me one favor and tap that subscribe button and give this a like, because this is exactly the kind of old knowledge that gets buried, and the more of you who stand with this channel, the longer it stays above ground where it can do some good. Hit that bell too, so you don't miss the next one. Now, let me show you why the small wound is the dangerous one. Picture two men. One takes an axe, glancing off a frozen log, and lays his shin open to the bone. A terrible wound, blood everywhere, the kind that drops your stomach when you see it. The other catches a thorn in the meat of his palm, a red dot, barely a bead of blood. Now, which one of those two men is more likely to be alive come spring? Most folks would say the second, the thorn man, and most folks would be dead wrong. The man with the open shin saw his wound. He feared it. He cleaned it hard. He watched it close. He kept it covered and he kept it dry, because a wound that frightens you is a wound you take care of. The thorn man did nothing, because there was nothing to do, because it didn't scare him. And that little closed-up puncture with the dirt sealed inside it is the perfect dark, warm, airless little room for the thing that actually does the killing to grow in. And here is the part most folks never get told. So lean in close, because if this next piece doesn't land, then nothing else I tell you will keep you alive. The wound is not what kills you. Let me say that again, because everything in you wants to argue with it. The wound is not what kills you. The wound is just the door. What kills you is what walks through that door while your back is turned, and it is far too small for your eye to ever catch. The old hands didn't have the words for it that we have now. They couldn't have told you about the invisible living things that ride in on a dirty wire or a thorn or a streak of mud. But they knew the signs cold, the way you know rain is coming by the ache in an old joint. They knew the look of a wound that had gone bad on the inside while it looked near healed on the outside. And they knew, every one of them, that the killing happened in the dark, under the skin. Days after the cut itself stopped hurting. So watch for these, because this is the warning the body gives you, and it is the only warning you're going to get. First, the heat. A wound going bad runs warmer than the skin around it. You lay the back of your fingers near it, and it gives off its own small fever before the rest of you ever does. Second, the red. Not the red of the cut itself, but a redness that spreads, that creeps outward past where the wound even is, blooming under the skin like dye through water. And third, the one that the old hands feared above all the rest, the red line. A thin streak running from the wound, up toward the heart, up the arm, up the leg, following the road the blood takes home. When a trapper saw that line start to climb, he knew the clock had run nearly out, because that line is the poison itself, walking up the inside of him toward the center of his life. A man who waited until he felt sick to worry was a man who waited too long, because by the time the fever and the chills and the muddied head arrive, the thing is already deep in the well. If this is opening your eyes a little, take 1 second and subscribe, hit that like, and ring the notification bell. I'm handing you knowledge that men paid for with their lives, and I'm handing it to you free. And all I ask back is that you help me keep it alive for the next person who needs it. Now, the fix. And I'll give it to you in layers the same way it was handed to me, because dumping it all at once would rob it of its weight. The first layer is the one almost everybody alive today gets exactly backward, and it goes like this. You do not seal the wound. Everything in you wants to close it up, cover it, wrap it tight, get it out of sight. That is the worst thing you can do to a dirty wound out here, because sealing it is how you build that warm, dark room I told you about. You let it breathe. You let it bleed a little even, because the blood running out is the body's own first washing, carrying the dirt back out the door it came in. A wound that drains is a wound that lives. A wound sealed wet over hidden dirt is a grave being dug slow. The second layer is the water, and it's simpler than you'd think. You flush it, and you flush it hard, and you flush it with clean water, more than feels reasonable, more than feels polite. Not a dab, not a wipe. You run clean water through that wound until you've carried out everything the cut dragged in with it, because the whole game is getting the dirt out before it can take root. The old hands boiled their water first and let it cool, and they were right too, even before anyone could have told them why. Clean water through a fresh wound has saved more limbs and more lives than any salve ever stirred in a pot. The third layer is the one that feels almost like magic until you understand it, and it grew right there at their feet. Certain things in the country around them fought the rot. The pitch that weeps from a pine or a spruce, that sticky amber sap, spread thin over a cleaned wound, laid a seal against new dirt that the bad things didn't like to cross. The inner bark of certain trees, chewed soft or boiled into a wash. Honey, when a man was lucky enough to have it, smeared right into the wound, where it pulled the wet out and choked the rot in a way that looks like superstition, until you learn it does exactly that. These weren't charms. These were medicine, real medicine, the first medicine, the kind that grew on the hillside for free, while the answer that costs you money sat a week's walk away in a town the dying man would never reach. And the fourth layer is the one nobody sees coming, the one that sounds like surrender until it clicks. Sometimes you have to open it back up, when a wound has already sealed over its own dirt, when the heat and the swelling tell you the rot has taken hold beneath a closed-up surface. The hard mercy is to open that door again and let the badness out. The old hands would draw it, drain it, press the poison out of it. And as ugly as that is, it is the very thing that pulled men back from the edge that closing it up had pushed them toward. The instinct to leave a healing wound alone is the instinct that kills when what's healing on top is rotting underneath. This is past the halfway mark, and you're still with me, So let me reward you for it by closing the loop I opened at the start, the riddle of how a man feels fine while he's dying. Here's the whole answer laid plain. The body fights this war in a place you cannot see and cannot feel, deep under the skin, in the blood and the meat. For days, the fight goes well enough that you notice nothing. You feel fine because the battle hasn't reached the parts of you that report in. And then, all at once, it breaks through. The poison spills into the blood, and the blood carries it everywhere, to every corner of you at once, and the strong man who felt fine at breakfast is flat on his back by dark, burning with fever, shaking with chills, his mind gone soft and wandering. That is why it kills slower than a bullet, but surer. A bullet you know about the same second it happens. This thing grants you days of feeling fine, and it spends every one of those days getting ready to take you all at once. The feeling fine was never safety. The feeling fine was the ambush. Now you might be asking why nobody ever told you this, why it isn't plain common knowledge, and the answer is the quiet kind. The kind that's about money and not about mystery. A wound you clean right with free water and free pitch, and a little hard knowing is a wound that costs nobody a dime. There's no fortune in teaching a man a habit he learns once and keeps forever. There is a great fortune in the salve and the powder and the bottle with the fine label, in selling a man the answer over and over, instead of teaching him the answer once. So the free knowing got quiet, and the quiet thing got forgotten, and good people kept dying of scratches their great-grandparents would have known how to handle before the cut even stopped bleeding. It's no cover-up. It's just that the old free wisdom doesn't advertise, and the thing in the bottle can afford to shout. Let me be straight with you now, the way I'd want a man to be straight with me, because I'd rather you trust me than be impressed by me. I am not telling you to throw away a doctor. If you can reach one, reach one. A bad infection can outrun anything that grows on a hillside, and the old hands lost men too, plenty of them for all their knowing. What I'm handing you is what you do when there is no doctor, when it's just you and the cold and a cut going wrong, the same spot those trappers stood in every winter of their lives. The pitch and the honey and the clean water are not magic, and I won't sell them to you as magic. They are the edge that tilts the odds, the difference between catching it early and catching it too late. And the biggest medicine of all, the one that costs the least, is simply respecting the small wound enough to watch it. We're nearly to the end here, so do me this last favor. Subscribe, hit that like, and turn on the notification bell, because the next person who scratches themselves on a rusty wire and brushes it off deserves to find this, the way you did. You sharing it might be the thing that keeps a stranger walking come spring. So here's the whole of it, small enough to carry and free as the sap on a pine. Fear the small wound more than the big one, because the big one you'll tend and the small one you'll ignore. Watch for the heat, the spreading red, and the line that climbs toward your heart. Don't seal dirt inside a wound. Flush it hard with clean water. Reach for the pitch and the bark and the honey the country gives you. And when it's already gone bad beneath a closed-up surface, find the hard mercy to open it and let the badness out. Do that much, and a cut that would have put a sure man in the ground will heal up into nothing but a scar and a story. Maybe that's the real lesson, the one bigger than wounds and bigger than winter. Those men didn't die because the woods were cruel. The woods were only ever just the woods. They died because they were certain. Certain a thing that small couldn't matter. Certain that feeling fine meant being fine. The wilderness never kills the humble man half as fast as it kills the sure one, and a scratch he was too proud to fear was all it ever took. So tell me down in the comments, what's the one bit of doctoring your grandparents knew that the rest of us have plain forgotten? Because I want to hear it, and next time I'm going to hand you another one that runs dead against common sense. An old rule about the water in the wild. the kind where the clearer and prettier and more inviting that stream looks, the more likely it is to lay you flat. I'll show you why, and what the old hands watched for instead. Until then, take care of your fire, watch the small hurts close, and don't ever trust a wound that's stopped hurting to tell you it's done with you.